And coming to silolithiasis, salivary gland disorder, silolithiasis, I know you are, I'm sure you all know that it is a stone within the duct or the salivary gland. It's defined as a calcified organic matter in the parenchyma or ducts of major or minor salivary glands. Consists of laminated layers of organic material covered with concentric shells of calcified matter, and the structure is hydroxyapatite crystalline consisting of octacalcium phosphate. Now, the predisposing factors are inflammation, local irritants, or drugs, which reduces flow of saliva, results in stasis in the flow of saliva, forming an organic nidus, which later calcifies. You all know that submandibular siloliths are more common than parotid. Why? Because of the tortuous course of the duct, because of increased mucinous content and calcium and phosphate in the submandibular salivary secretion. Now, the patient always presents with painful recurrent swelling, in the submandibular region or parotid region, which is more during meals, and it subsides after that. So that is the classic sign of silolithiasis. If it is not treated, it will lead to retrograde infection and degeneration of the gland. Now, if you take a radiograph, you can see a radiopaque area in the duct or in the gland, but not all calculi will be completely mineralized to be present as a radiopaque lesion in the radiograph. 20% of submandibular and 50% of parotid siloliths are poorly calcified. The other investigative modality, so you have to reduce the exposure when you are taking a radiograph so that it is visible as a radiopaque object. Then ultrasonography is taken, and the silography also helps us to see the silolith. So here you can appreciate a silolith in the floor of the mouth. This is the mandibular salivary gland opening. Then here in the lateral skull radiograph, you can appreciate a radiopacity below the mandible. Here is a cropped OPG where you can appreciate silolith again, an occlusal, lower occlusal radiograph where you can see a linear radiopacity, which is suggestive of a silolith. This is a silography of a normal parotid gland, which presents as a leafless tree, or tree in winter. And this is silography of the submandibular gland, similar appearance, tree in winter or a leafless tree. This is silography of a left submandibular gland. There is a large silolith here, which appears as in silography, it appears as an unfilled defect, and which has led to silodocitis or fibrosis and inflammation and fibrosis of the duct, which has led to strictures, which gives the beaded string or sausage appearance of the duct. Now, the differential diagnosis, if asked, of silolithiasis would be calcified lymph node or an avulsed or embedded teeth, which we can see in the radiograph, a foreign body, radiopaque foreign body, phlebolith with a calcification in the vein, or a facial artery, myositis ossificans can be mistaken for a silolith, then hyoid bone, inostosis, which you know it's an intrabony counterpart of exostosis. And management is usually surgical removal from the duct or from the gland. Coming to the next salivary gland disease, the Sjogren's syndrome. It's a chronic autoimmune disorder caused by lymphocytic infiltration of the salivary and the lacrimal glands, and presents with three symptoms: keratoconjunctivitis thicca or xerophthalmia or dry eyes, xerostomia or dry mouth, arthritis also. If the first two, dry eyes and dry mouth, are only there, we call it as the primary or the keratoconjunctivitis thicca syndrome. If there is in the secondary Sjogren's syndrome, there is arthritis and systemic lupus erythematosus and other diseases also. Now, in the oral manifestations of Sjogren's syndrome are dry mouth, so there will be less salivary secretion because of the involvement of salivary gland. There will be, it will affect the taste also. Patient will not be able to wear dentures. The entire mucosa appears dry and glazed, and there will be a clicking quality of speech because of the tongue sticking to the palate. You call the while eating, you call it as a cracker sign also. And the tongue will have severe fissures. It will be depapillated. Because of lack of saliva or xerostomia, there will be superadded infection by opportunistic Candida albicans because they get to colonize. There will be increased incidence of dental caries and periodontitis also. Eyes will be itchy. It will be because of less lacrimal secretion. It will be dry. There will be keratoconjunctivitis. And secondary Sjogren's syndrome is associated with connective tissue disorders such as rheumatoid arthritis. You can see ulnar deviation of fingers and rheumatoid nodules. Other systems are also involved in Sjogren's syndrome such as hepatosplenomegaly and glomerulonephritis. Now this picture gives you the clinical features. As you can see here, there is bilateral enlargement of parotid salivary glands, dry mouth, dry eyes. Tongue, as you can see, is glazed, depapillated with fissures. There is superadded candidal infection. And here you can see ulnar deviation is characteristic of rheumatoid arthritis and keratoconjunctivitis. Now, investigations would include ophthalmic studies and salivary studies. Ophthalmic studies include Schirmer's test, where you place a filter paper in the lower conjunctival sac to know the wetness, thus assessing the lacrimal function. Rose-Bengal test can be done with a dye, Rose-Bengal dye, to know the denuded areas of the cornea, which is taken up. Breakup time is a test done using a slit lamp and noting the interval between a blink and appearance of dry spot in the cornea. Salivary studies include flow cytometry, that is assessing the amount of saliva that is secreted, xylochemistry, xylography, and scintigraphy, also minor salivary gland biopsy, especially in the labial mucosa where there are a lot of minor salivary glands, and the inflammatory foci are counted. So, to confirm the diagnosis, two of the above three features should be positive. Either positive serum anti-SSA-RO or anti-SSP-LA, which is suggestive of a connective tissue disorder, or a positive labial salivary gland biopsy with focal lymphocyte score of more than 1 focus per 4 millimeter square, and conjunctivitis. So, two of the above features should be positive to confirm the diagnosis of Sjogren's syndrome. This is xylography of Sjogren's syndrome and the parotid. As you can see here, it's called cherry blossom or snowstorm appearance. Why? Because the dye, the xylographic dye, it leaks out through the ductules and they form blobs or globules. That's why it's called punctate xylectiasis or globular xylectiasis. So this is a salivary xylographic picture of Sjogren's syndrome. And treatment, you have to give symptomatic relief to the eye with artificial tears. Due to xerostomia, you have to give artificial saliva, which contains carboxymethyl cellulose, to stimulate salivation using pilocarpine. Antifungals have to be given for the opportunistic candidal infection and treated with systemic hydroxychloroquine and corticosteroids.